I can't see all of you. Can you hear me in the back?
Yep.
Bill? Good. The property will always remain Nisga'a lands and be subject to Nisga'a laws under the Nisga'a Final Agreement. We want to be able to own our own lands. It's been 50 years since we were able to vote in Canada, and like other Canadians, we want to be able to hold title to lands that we've got. Every other Canadian has this options, but not First Nations. We've been legislated out of the economy. We want to be legislated back into the Canadian economy. It's about the freedom to choose. Just a couple of weeks ago, actually over the weekend, the Olympics, the Paralympics ended, and just before that, the Olympics ended. And one of the incredible initiatives that Canada had was Own the Podium. That's what we want to be able to do. We want to facilitate First Nations being able to own the podium and therefore own our own lands. Ooh, I don't think that'll work.
Yeah, there you go.
We can hear good. We can hear okay.
Yeah. When when I think about our traditional history, and if you look at the cover, it's got a pictograph of the eagle. And of course, the eagle symbolizes to First Nations people being able to fly above the heavens, being able to look down on your territory, being able to think and have a vision for the future. And coupled with that is the condor, representing Indigenous people of the South Americas. And what I ultimately want to do is unite the eagle and the condor. And the condor is based on the Nazca lines in Peru. And so one of my protocols has been established with Hernando de Soto, one of the world's leading experts and economists on private property rights. And so what we're doing is working together to achieve what no other peoples have achieved in the Americas, which is recognizing the underlying fundamental title of First Nations within the federations that we live. And it's important for all of us to recognize, as I felt during the Olympics, how proud we all were as Canadians and how underutilized from an economic standpoint First Nations were. And so when I talk about Own the Podium, it's about unleashing an imagination, creating new memories for all of us to be able to share. There are about 50,000 certificates of possession in Canada. And what I want to be able to do is harness the imagination, the work ethic of those individuals and unleash it in the global economy. I strongly believe that this can only be accomplished through the strong working relationship between all Canadians, Indigenous people and Canadians from sea to sea to sea. And that's one of the reasons I worked with Carl on the form of federations, because I believe in this federation known as Canada. This also fits within, and I met with the National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations about 2 weeks ago. This fits within his criteria about moving his agenda forward. The first is on education, then health and economic development. And you can't ever begin to resolve those questions without having a very strong economy. And I want to end this by, of course, thanking the authors of the book, and in particular, Mr. Flanagan. You know, you might look at us and think that we're the odd couple. Why are these two guys working together? You know, but the very fact is that we both want to change this federation. We want to be able to, and we believe very strongly in property rights. And so when I started to advance this notion that we needed to involve First Nations in terms of private property, one of the first individuals I chose to begin to work with and bring into my tent was Tom. And so when I think about the future, and I think about it often, you know, people are fond of saying, let's think about the 7 generations into the future. I don't think simply of 7 generations. I think of us in terms of thousands of years, and how strong and the kinds of contributions that Indigenous peoples have made to the world. And we've been shut out of that because of the Indian Act. It's time for the Indian Act to go to the way of the dustbins of history. It shouldn't even be here. One of my heroes is Chief Joseph, a Nez Perce chief who people think was a war chief, but he wasn't. He was a community chief. He was a chief whose responsibility was to make sure his people were taken care of. Let me be a free man, free to travel, free to stop, free to work and trade where I choose, free to choose my own teachers, free to follow the religion of my fathers, free to talk, think, and act for myself. Thank you very much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that you'll agree with me that this is one of the more fertile odd couples that we have had the pleasure of having amongst us. Thank you very much for those remarks, Manny. I think it really helps to put the book in a context that every one of us who watched the Olympics and who has strong feelings about the future of this country puts this book in a very, very exciting light.